Now, if you're in the market for a telescope, you'll be pleased to hear that Space Nuts has joined forces with a sponsor, Orion Telescopes, and they have a vast array of product. And we've had a few people ask us about buying a telescope and how they should do it and what they should look for. So if you want to peruse their stock and find out a little bit more about what they can offer you, go to our sponsor's website via a special URL, spacenutspodcast.com/telescope, and it will take you to their page and you can look through, look, there's just heaps and all sorts of price levels depending on what you want to do. So spacenutspodcast.com/telescope and visit our sponsor Orion Telescopes and Binoculars and see what they can do for you. Now, Fred, we have got quite a few things to deal with. 3 quick stories that probably won't end up being too quick at all because, you know, we tend to chat. But first things first, NASA's planned moon mission looks like it might be delayed. And the problem isn't the moon. It isn't the spacecraft that's going there. It isn't the people that they would be sending or the things that they would be sending on the spacecraft. It's the spacesuits.
Isn't it? Yes, it's a bit, well, not exactly comical, but it's a bit of a...
I'm thinking it's funny.
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise that there is an issue with the suits that are being designed, and they've been designed specifically for the Artemis program, which is the US-led mission to send astronauts back to the moon. Our schedule on that has been, you know, the plan has been 2024 for the first landing for some years now. I think it was the Trump administration that set that deadline. It was originally going to be later than that, but the Trump administration urged NASA to bring it forward, which they did. But it now looks as though it will actually be pushed back again, probably no sooner than 2025. And it's because of these the development of new spacesuits, which have a vaguely Australian-related name, Andrew, which is Extra Vehicular Mobility Units, and the acronym is EMU. So,
of course,
the EMUs, otherwise known as spacesuits, and so there are delays, and there's been a report. Which I think is by Inspector General Paul Martin. I think this has come from external to NASA, but this report says that the delays are attributable to funding shortfalls, COVID-19 impacts, and technical challenges, and they have left no schedule margin for delivery of 2 flight-ready EMUs. These are the extra vehicular mobility units.
The other problem, Fred, is that NASA sacked all its seamstresses a couple of years ago. So, yeah, that's caused a big problem.
Well, there's a story. Did we cover a story in that there are seamstresses, or there were in the early days of NASA, whose work on the spacesuits was actually revolutionary?
I think we did, yeah. And that might be why it popped into my head.
Popped into your head, yeah. So anyway,
yeah.
So there's a huge. I think they've spent something well over 400 million for the development of these spacesuits. There is a slightly cheeky comment, which comes from somebody whose identity you'll guess, a tweet which said SpaceX could do it if need be, of course, from Elon Musk.
Yeah, of course.
So he's just put that in there, I think. But
we should get him on the program as a special guest.
I think it'd be great. I don't think he'd.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't think he would stoop to Space Nuts. I mean,
no, I think we're a bit too big for him.
Get the world's richest man on, Jeff Bezos, instead. How's that?
Why not?
Anyway,
why not?
All that rubbish notwithstanding, SpaceX is an integral part of the Artemis program anyway. But it is disappointing news. It's a shame that the delays are going to push this maybe to the very end of 2024 for the landing, but more likely to be 2025. And knowing the way these things go, you can guess it might be even later still.
Well, there's one spacesuit in a glass cabinet in Florida that I've seen that they know worked on the moon. Why can't they just grab that one? Neil won't mind.
Yeah, I suspect the old lunar, the Apollo spacesuits are probably a bit clunky compared with what Artemis requires. I think they want to do more work on the moon.
Yeah, well, judging by how often all the Apollo astronauts fell over on the moon,
exactly.
I'm guessing they were a little bit out of kilter with reality.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
But they worked.
They worked.
That's
right.
All right, from one delay to another, and that is the Starliner, the Boeing Starliner mission. Looks like it might be pushed back as well.
That's right. So Starliner was supposed to fly on the 4th
August the 4th?
4th of August, yes, which is a date that I'll explain it to you one day, but it's regarded as Christmas Day in my household. August the 4th. Oh. This is a long story, which I haven't time to tell you.
Right.
Anyway, so we always joke about the 4th of August being Christmas Day. So there was supposed to be a launch 2.5 hours ahead of the launch. They aborted it, basically. And the bottom line is that it's not just something where you can tinker with the spacecraft while it's sitting on top of its Atlas V launch vehicle. It actually needs the Starliner space capsule, which, by the way, is Boeing's answer to SpaceX's Dragon capsule. It's the other of the commissioned human spaceflight capsules. It has to come off the Atlas V launch vehicle and go back to the company's factory, the Kennedy Space Center, for further work. And the reason is all about some valves which are sealed with Teflon, and they're in the thrusters that the Starliner uses. These are the things that, let you orientate the thing and keep it pointing in the right direction. And apparently oxidizer has seeped into those seals, and the oxidizer that they use is nitrogen tetroxide, seeped into the Teflon seals, and you get a mixture of that nitrogen tetroxide with moisture, which creates something called nitric acid, which you don't really want because it will corrode the valves and basically makes them stick closed. And that's why they've had to take the spacecraft, or they take the module off the launch vehicle and work on it in the processing facility. What I
want to know, Fred, is how the hell did they figure that out?
Yeah.
I mean, 2.5 hours before launch, did a little light come up and say, this valve's going to stick?
I bet that's exactly what happened. Something like that. Anyway, it's probably in a computer somewhere. But these things are absolutely festooned with sensors to detect, what's happening, that everything's working. As they've got to be, because there's, with a spacecraft launch, you usually just get one chance at it. And if things go badly wrong, there's a lot of money gone down the drain. So, yes, so my guess is that it was not quite a red light, but something that would have certainly come up in the telemetry from the spacecraft. So, yes, it's pushed back. We don't yet have a date. It's even possible that it might not be before the end of the year. They're suggesting that maybe the first mission. This is actually, it's not the first one. It's the second test flight of Starliner. The first one ended badly too, because the spacecraft went into the wrong orbit when it actually reached orbit. It didn't dock with the space station, which is what it was supposed to do. This is the second.
Right, I remember.
Second mission. Looks as though it might be 2022 before it will take place. So another bit of a downer, really, Andrew. And I think you might have another one to come.
Better to be safe than sorry, though, Fred.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
especially with
better to be safe than sorry. I will say though that Boeing isn't too disappointed to use the airport vernacular. They're very used to pushback.
Oh ho ho ho! Where do you find these things?
Oh, I don't know. In the recesses of my dark mind.
Yes.
All right. From one disappointment to another, and back to this NASA problem. The first real hiccup of Perseverance. It's dug a hole and it couldn't get anything out.
Yeah, that's right. So Perseverance is uniquely equipped with a device that will collect samples for later return to Earth. So it's a little core sample drill. And the idea is it drills into rock and it pulls out a core sample, which is about the size of a piece of chalk, size and shape of a piece of chalk. If you can remember that, I can, and I hope many of our listeners will.
Yeah, I can too.
Chalk pastels would be another way of looking at it. Something a bit about the size of your little finger, I guess, is the description, size and shape. That is supposed to be. Excuse me, Andrew. For the first time ever, I think I've sneezed live on Space Nuts. You might.
It was a very delicate sneeze. Mine usually sound like a Boeing Starliner lifting off.
Or not, as the case may be.
Or not.
Anyway, it's supposed to drill into soil and lift that core sample back and put it in basically a sealed tube, which they then leave on the surface for a future mission to pick up. But what happened was the drill worked all right, but they didn't get anything out of it. It just came up empty. The drill, the sample drill that they use. So what is happening is that NASA is blaming Mars because everything worked properly, but they didn't get any material. It looks as though all the material that they drilled out was just really powdery rock, and so some of the material formed a little ridge around the hole, which Perseverance sent pictures back of, and some of it just fell back into the hole. And it's a bit odd, it's in many ways, I'm not sure whether people have drawn this connection before, but it's a little bit ironic because if you remember InSight, you and I talked about InSight many, many times with this thermometer that was supposed to be drilled a metre or so into the rock underneath it, and even by bashing it in with the with the backhoe scoop that they had, they didn't get it in there. It was too tough. The rock was the soil
should have gone here.
Yeah, exactly. So they've had the opposite problem at Jezero Crater with Perseverance. One of the final comment is that I think Ingenuity has now had 11 flights, all of which have been incredibly successful. They've done aerial surveys now. They're really using this helicopter to make that mission value added in a way that perhaps wasn't really expected. So yeah, unfortunately now Martian authorities are really getting upset about the obesity that's happening on Mars due to all these pizza deliveries. So it's a real worry. What impresses me is the photographs that Perseverance has taken to prove that it was the problem with Mars and not Perseverance, the little dust bowl it's created. Yes, that's right.
You can see that so very clearly in high definition. It's a really good set of photographs
amazing, isn't it?
of the powdery rock. They're going to have to find another rock, Fred.
A different rock, I think that's the answer. Yeah. Maybe the drill was just too energetic, but whatever happened, they didn't get a core sample. And it must be a disappointment.
I'm sure they've got built-in systems to vary the drill rates and all that sort of stuff. I think they'll have it covered. It's just a glitch, people. Nothing to worry about here. But yes, we watch with interest and wait and hope that they do find what they're looking for. What are they looking for? Oh, evidence of past life.
That'll do.
Not very important at all, really.
It's a minor detail. Yeah.
Anyway, we will. Just put that one on hold, and we'll get back to it soon. I'm sure there'll be another story very soon about the success of Perseverance digging a hole and collecting dirt.
I hope so.
Doesn't it sound inferior when you say it like that?
Yep, it does.
Yeah, never mind. This is the Space Nuts podcast. Andrew Dunkley here with Professor Fred Watson.
Space Nuts. You've been listening to the Space Nuts podcast. Available at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player. You can also stream on demand at Bytes.com. This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.